All right, guys, how we doing? Happy Bitcoin Friday. Here we are on the 20th of September. All right, so we'll take a look here now where we stay in this congestion, but things have gotten a bit interesting now. So before I unpack this and we get in here, let's just make note of a couple of things. We still have to respect this channel, right? So even though we may have an alternate way to be interpreting this right now, until we get something definitive to break out of this, you got to respect that. All right, so particularly because these two were technical pivots, so right, and then it just becomes a function of how is this going to resolve. So we just the basic stuff here. Per the count, do we have a completed impulse here? Right, that has been the assumption all along. So thus the idea that whatever kind of correction we're doing here is something that would at least send us down here towards the 50 or even the golden zone would be the expectation. However, right, some interesting things since last Friday have this now perhaps another scenario here. So because of what we're seeing now, we got to consider the possibility that this is what's happening here. All right, so let me unpack this a little bit. We're obviously there's a trend line here that we got to respect, right? If we're thinking beyond just a channel, but at this point, there's been quite a number of technicians that have been projecting this for some time, and my view with triangles is until you get a little, to do it with 3 pivots, you really need more than that. But you could make a case here that we are now just in the process of completing this triangle. Right now, it sets up the timing of it. Sets up rather nicely because, as I'm assuming, most Bitcoin traders are aware of the fact that we have BACT coming online on Monday. Not insignificant. Right now, so there's a general anticipation, of course, that will be bullish for the market. But if that's what ends up happening here, let me get this up here. If we're going to break out of this to the upside, then you got to, if you're, again, assuming you're thinking with your Elliott hat, you got to come back here and go, okay, something else is happening here. Rather than this being complete, it looks like we're going to have to accept this. Well, you can count it this way. It's a little bit different here because of this big spike here on Bitstamp. But we can count it as a 1, 2, 3 here, this being the 4, that being the 5. Now, I'm not sure that I'm interpreting that as necessarily good news or, well, sure, right? So I'm long Bitcoin, so I would like to see that. Although, if we're going to complete the impulse here, of course, that's going to set up the idea that at some point here, there's likely to be another retrace, which would suggest that if we're going to complete the one wave off the 3,200 low, that something like that is likely in our future. Again, nothing says we have to go to the 50, just as the case here with this whole time. We've been kind of thinking, oh, W, X, Y, likely heading to the 50. If this is going to resolve out of here, now we haven't done it yet, right? So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But if the break is up, I think you got to come back here and put the 4 here. Well, it can't be a 2, right? We can't have a triangle in the 2, so process of elimination doesn't leave much else, right? So if this is going to play this way, it's going to be very interesting to see how we evolve here and how we come out of this congestion. Right? Certainly, any Elliott trader is going to be influenced substantially by that. So then you start thinking about just typical wave relationships. Now this is where it gets more interesting. Where's your 1? Right? We had been putting the 1, 2, but the 3 was so gigantic. You'll recall last week, I think it was last week, I went through this alternate count here. It's still kind of funky, right? So if this is the 1, we've got a very shallow 2, right? So we're well beyond the 2618. But if we use our projected 4 here, right? Look at that, right? So there's your 2618. The length of the, if that's, well, if we have it right, if that's our projection for the 4 and we're going up to the 2618, kind of interesting, right? So do I have it right on there? Let's make sure I've got that. Yeah, I do, right? So here's the 1, right? So we're projecting the length of the 1 from the proposed get it right on there. Proposed 4, right? We've still, so our algo target is still up here, right? But that's a function of here. Now we put it together. All right, now look at that. 16.4. Hard not to like that. All right, so it means, so here if I'm going swing low, swing high, this is our pivot. We run into the structure here, so you know we don't make the 50 here. But if this is trading as a 4, the fact that we've hovered between the 38 and the 50 makes more sense, right? So if we're going to come up here and kick into that, even here, right? So if we start thinking about possibly some geometry, it's not perfect. I'll kind of look around here to see if there's another pivot. If I use the 2, that kind of could be interesting here, right? If we're going to go get it there. It's just a little bit of experimentation, looking for what seems to be containing the market here. I mean, I guess technically we'd want to do it. I mean, that's worth considering. Here we're too far gone, so I'm going out to our last pivot of the triangle. That seems to be it's potential, right? So hard to make that call just yet here, or we could just do it from the 2 through the 4 here, and we could do it this way. All kind of giving you, this is getting rather interesting as our next if, right? If we're coming out of here bullishly, that's getting kind of interesting. So let's with all that kind of just looked at from a bigger picture here, let me get all this off of here. Let's go unpack this here. See if this makes sense. All right, it's not perfect, right? There's a few questionable swings in here. So you look at it and you go, well, what's the most influential event here? The fact that we come down here and we get this, right? So if this is, well, let me label it here because I took it off here. All right, so here, this is a candidate, right? There's an alternate count here. Oh, come here. Let's see. So if this is A, B, C, D, E, we are teed up to go. Now, where is it questionable? Well, you can make a case that this is a W. I don't know that it matters, right? We can make a case here that this is a WXY into that C. Now, this is a little bit of we're squeezing it in here, and we get an underthrow in the D here. We don't quite make, well, so of course we don't quite make the trend line. I'm gonna get that right on there. We're not quite making it here. So I might, so we've got a little underthrow here as well. So I might put this on equally, right? I want to see this move beyond both of these, right? If we got to get outside of all this, of course, there's going to be algo resistance up here. So right? So we got to get through all of that, right? We're not going up to get through any of that until we get through this, right? Being the dominant, right? We got to get through that 65. So is this legit, right? So goddamn, it's pretty clear. It's pretty good. Right, so we need 3, 3, 3. Now, are we force fitting here? I go down to the 60-minute here. Nope, I don't want log. I want auto here. Bear with me a sec. Okay, so are we force fitting here? Well, you can definitely get the C here. Right, it requires a very generous interpretation here. The A works, the B, but the size of the C relative to the AB a little iffy, right? Because you could certainly see how, and we had been previously considering this as potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I wouldn't. If we break through any of this and we start to go here, I got no problem calling this triangle in, and then that effect, of course, as I was just showing you, would affect how you're labeling the broader count off the low. I'm planning the 4 here and anticipating that 5. So with that off here, let's pull this one. Well, we're gonna leave that one there. All right, so you can think. You can think WXY or ABC. I don't know that really matters at this point here. You got to live with this. All right, if the triangle is in here, and this is pretty damn good, right? So, yeah, we got a little overthrow here on the C. That's not a deal breaker. So, but this, right? So connecting these two pivots, if I can get them all here. This pivot to this pivot for the E, the A to the E, yeah, so this would be the ABC of the B, right? AB or WXY of the C. You got to live with the ABC here. So here's the alternate. That this is the D. Right, so I went back and forth with Sensei Hove on this. Right, he's my go-to guy when I'm kind of checking counts, because he's so good with Elliott. So he and I went back and forth on that, and his suggestion was you got to accept the possibility here that we're just doing an A, B, C of the D before going E, and then the kick is there. Right, it's hard to make that distinction until we see how aggressively we come out of here, which pivot. So this would be just as reasonable. Now, it doesn't change where you're planting the 4, right? But if you're anticipating, oh, the E is in, it's not time to go balls to the wall here just yet. Right, you got to respect that possibility here. So the thinking being that this is, as I said here, so this is, we'd have C in A, B, C of the D. It still plays as the triangle, but it's setting up this one more push down. Now, what the reason I think this is more likely the E, right? So this would be my primary, and I'll show you why. And I would like to think that whether you're a member or you're watching here on YouTube, you've already done this. You already know what I'm about to do because you did the same thing. So why do we stop here? What was this all about? What was this all about? Right here. What was that about? Right? So this everybody, oh shit, Bitcoin's crashing. We went down $800. What is that about? Right? Again, I'd like to think I don't need to do this because y'all have already done this. Right, that's to the tick. Right, so here's the first time we hit the 50, in between the 50 and the 618 here, we say a couple of ticks, right to it. Right, just an algo swing, which makes me think, right, somebody wanted to, right, powers that be, right, they wanted their fill down here. They wanted this to completed, and now look at the reaction, right? So they get their target, right, to the tick, boom, $800 back up. So that's what has me leaning into the E here, right? Something completed here. Somebody wanted to get this, right? So bear trap, probably, right? For those that don't know this algo, that don't track it, that don't understand that it's there in every single time frame, in every single market, on every single chart, in every single asset class, those that ignore this, I promise you people were shorting here on the break of this, right? As that pivot broke, oh, here we go, right? If you don't know that's there, you're blind in the market. All right, so we got a pretty good candidate here. Well, now, of course, we got to, if that is going to be our pivot, if that's our 4, we need a nice, fat, strong impulse to come out of here, right? That's what's going to get people excited about Bitcoin again. Right now, well, maybe, right? I'm on a 60. It's not particularly... I mean, okay, so shallow 2 maybe, right? We just as easily be an ABC, right? So right now, if you're looking to label it, you're stuck with this, right? That's all you got. 1 shallow 2, 3 ABC in the 4, okay. But we got a lot, right? And then look here, if we're gonna complete the impulse, sure looks like you're gonna just go right it. Well, let's get the whole thing here. So you'd be getting through that 65, good sign. But right, so here's our resistance, our trend line resistance. That wouldn't shock me. But now look what we're doing here. We're getting beyond the first, the inner. Well, let's see if I pull back out that inner one that I just drew. Right, we got to get through this one, connecting the B and the D. If we can get through that one, that tees it up, right? But don't assume we're getting through the outside one. Get those right on there. Let's not make any assumptions about anything with Bitcoin right now. There's been so many false breaks. Let's get through that second one. And of course, right, there's going to be all of these all along, right? So as soon as you get through this one, you got to get through this one. As soon as you get through that one, you got to get through that one. As soon as you get through that one, you got to get through that one. So until we get through this up here at 12, let's call it 12.3. Right, still you got to respect, this consistent series of running into algos, well, this one, right? We've looked at this one as well, right? So it's just over and over and over again. So this one's to the 50. Now, what's interesting here, this one has not made. Whoop, did we? No, we did not make target there. Yeah, that one did not make it. So this one was, pardon me. This one here did not make target, but it sets up this one that did. So where are we going? I don't know that I'd be, buying aggressively here until we get, let's at least get, see what you'd hope here. Let's pull all this. All right, so we know that's going to be there. Is that you'd get through and then test from above, right? You'd get the retest. That's the most common path here, that if you're anticipating what's next, right? So I'm going to take this off, right? We know we got to get through all of this. So if we can break and then come back and do the retest from above, then it starts to look more interesting because, right, if that's the 4, pardon me, we're trying to just get started into, if that completes, is that the 1, 2, right? Remember, that could just as easily be that's the D, and then we're coming down for the E. So, if you're trading this on a smaller time frame, I'm on an 8-hour, right? You can't eliminate that possibility. So maybe acknowledging that that's a possibility here, that the D is going to come over here. And this is just A, B, and that 5 would be the C of the D, right? If you follow me there, right? And then we come down here, and then the E ends up being over here. Now, what's the difference in price? It's not dramatic, right? But that could be 10.5 would put us down here at 9. I mean, you could, $800 there easily, right? So don't forget that, right? So if we break here, yeah, sure, that'd be a good sign, but we want to get well beyond and get a close beyond this downsloping trend line here before you really get comfortable with where's the E, right? Because it could still be either one of these spots. This wouldn't surprise me at all, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we did this over the weekend, right? So we come into Monday. Now, it's a little bit, right, everybody and their brother in crypto is thinking, oh, Bakkt on Monday, that should be bullish. All right, well, don't be surprised if it's not, right? That we could end up doing this, right? We could, there's just no telling, right? So as we tighten and tighten, eventually there's going to be the anticipation would be a pretty substantial break one way or the other. If it breaks down, we invalidate the triangle, we're back to looking at the 50, right? Then we're back to looking for the second. If the triangle holds, then we keep the 4 here, and we're projecting up for that 16 and change target. Interesting. All right, so I don't know that you need to be slamming into a new trade here just because we have this nice trend line tap here, right? Yeah, I know, right? It's nice to the trend line. You got a perfect algo target there, but this is it could easily go either direction here. So I'd be a little cautious. Remember, this is a little bit of a force fit to get that into a 3. Could just as easily be an impulse, right? So then if you're counting it that way, that makes more sense. And that was Sensei Hove's thought, is that if this is 1, 2, 3, it's not great even as a 5, right? So you don't have much of a 5. But that the basic structure here certainly could be an A and then the 3 down, right? So this could be A, B, C. This 5 completes, we get the D. Now we're looking for that little 3 into the E, right? You're looking for that. Right now, is it going to be that textbook perfect? Well, shit, it could be. Right, wouldn't surprise me terribly. So where's the E? All right, so before you get overly aggressive one way or the other, let it show its hand, right? So it's just like, there have been people calling this a triangle since we were here. Right? Oh, I'm sure it's a triangle. I've got senseis, right? One of my senseis was absolutely certain this was a triangle back, maybe it was here, right? He may very well end up being right. So he's positioned accordingly. So for me, I gotta get at least a little more structure here before I'm ready to go with the triangle, right? Because it's just Bitcoin. There's been so many fake outs and breakouts and false breaks and bear traps and bull traps. Right now, right, we're just tightening. Look at the point of control, right smack dab in the middle of it. So the one thing we can say with certainty, right? We know what happened right there. All right. So the move off of that. Well, let's see what happens. Right, let's not be overly aggressive one side or the other, right? We know it's going to break, but when it comes, so again, don't let the FOMO, if it breaks here, either way, don't let the FOMO, affect your decision-making process. Be calculated. There's plenty. Oh shit, man, we're at 10.1 here, and we got a target of 16,000. Right? If you get the break, don't just buy into it necessarily, right? So maybe you want a little piece because you don't want to be left behind, but anticipate the people that bought it, right? That those people it's triangle. I'm sure that's likely to come, right? Then it's getting more interesting, right? So that would likely, we'd be just trying to get into the 1 of the 5. All right, so we're getting close, right? At some point, we're going to break out of here. Things are going to get interesting. So maybe are the alts giving us a little bit of a tell as to what's to come? Big fourth quarter for crypto. Seems like the plate is all set for it. All right, guys, I'll be back with one more, at least members here. Okay, talk to you later.